In 2026, you are getting a free Diancie, and probably a Hoopa and Volcanion too while we're at it. This isn't just wishful thinking though. This is based on a clear pattern and repetition that Pokemon's used for its anniversaries over the last 10 years, with the 30th anniversary being the biggest one we've seen yet. For years, getting your hands on a mythical Pokemon was kind of the stuff of legend. Pardon the pun. It was really difficult to do. You had to be there for in-person limited time distributions, and it was so difficult that if your friend had a mythical, you had to assume that it was hacked, because how else would they have gotten it? Most of these distributions happened in Japan, which meant that for those of us who were kids at the time, getting your parents to take you to Japan so that you can get a Pokemon, not really feasible. But that sting of having an empty Pokédex slot where there should be a Mew, or a Celebi, or an Arceus, that's a core memory for most Pokemon fans, myself included. But luckily over the last 10 years, especially with the anniversaries, Pokemon's helped those of us that couldn't really make it to Japan for those distributions find some mythicals of our own. And they don't show any signs of slowing down. By looking at what Pokemon did for the 20th and 25th anniversaries, we can build a surprisingly accurate picture of the 30th. This isn't just a wish list of what I hope we'll get. It's a forecast based on the evidence we've gathered over the last 10 years, the 20th and the 25th anniversary, and it points to the fact that we may be getting one of the biggest distributions of mythicals that we've ever seen in Pokemon. So today we're going to be breaking down the history of Pokemon's mythical distributions, identify the pattern, and build a compelling case for which mythical Pokemon you'll probably be downloading for free come 2026. To understand what's coming, we have to go back to the anniversary that started all of this. The 20th anniversary, 2016. If you were a Pokemon player during that time like I was, getting a mythical Pokemon was really difficult. You maybe had one, and if you did, you were really lucky. Having more than one was a dream. It was never gonna happen. And then the Pokemon company did something. They announced on Pokemon Day that we were going to be getting free mythical Pokemon. And not just one or two, but for the rest of the year, we were gonna be getting one a month. They started off with Mew, and it wasn't like you had to be somewhere to get it. It came through a mystery gift. Every single month, you either got a mystery gift via Wi-Fi, or you got a GameStop code, or whatever store it was that was in your area were giving out codes for mythical Pokemon. My store at the time was Toys R Us, because we didn't have GameStop, but walking into that store to get a code, and then going home, plugging in the code, and actually having a Mew that was your own, that feeling still hasn't left me almost 10 years later. In March we got Celebi, April we got Jirachi, May we got Darkrai, and it just snowballed from there. In 2016, we got 11 mythical Pokemon for free. We got Mew, we got Celebi, we got Jirachi, we got Darkrai, we got Manaphy, Shaman, Arceus, Keldeo, Victini, Genesect, and Meloetta, all in a span of 11 months. The Pokemon company didn't make you go anywhere outside your hometown to get it. You either had to be connected to the internet, or you just had to go to a physical store, and they made that store different around the world so that everyone could get it. Each of these came in a Cherish Ball. They're level 100, and their original trainer was GF, Game Freak, so that Game Freak could actually celebrate giving us those Pokemon. I still have some of mine, almost 10 years later, and looking at them in my Pokemon home is one of the fondest memories I have. Remembering how I was a kid and got those Pokemon that I thought I would never have access to. The 20th anniversary wasn't just a celebration of Pokemon being around for 20 years. It was a celebration of being a fan for 20 years. Watching the anime, playing the games, seeing all these unattainable Pokemon, and Game Freak finally saying, yeah, you know what? To reward you for that 20-year loyalty, here you go. Here are the Pokemon you've been searching for. That was the theme of the 20th anniversary, but Pokemon didn't let it end there. It wasn't a one-off and done. In fact, it set a new precedent. And to talk about that, we're going to move 5 years forward to 2021, the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, where Game Freak did the same thing, just a little bit differently. 2021, we were now on the Nintendo Switch. Game Freak had a lot more people playing, a lot more people connected to Wi-Fi, and they decided to do things a little bit differently. Now, if you remember, in 2021, we got Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl towards the end of that year. And then in January of 2022, we got something revolutionary. We got Pokemon Legends Arceus. I can only assume it came out in January because they didn't want to put November and November, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and Arceus in the same time, but they were both part of that 25th anniversary celebration. And what did the Pokemon company do? They didn't just give us a serial code or a Wi-Fi event to get mythical Pokemon again. No, they went a step further. They made mythical Pokemon part of the game that you were playing. They made them obtainable in the game that you were playing. In Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, you could get a Mew and a Jirachi just by going to Floroma Town and having save data from the other games. If you had Let's Go Pikachu or Eevee save data, you got a Mew just for having that data. If you had Sword and Shield save data, you got a Jirachi just for having that save data. 2 free mythical Pokemon to reward you for playing the Pokemon games. But they didn't stop there. In Legends Arceus, they gave us a way to get mythical Pokemon baked right into the game, where we could actually catch them. They gave us 5 mythical Pokemon that we could actually catch instead of just being given them. So they were ours. They were our Pokemon. We'd caught them. They gave us Fiona and Manaphy. Then, if you had save data from Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, you could get a Darkrai event. If you had Sword and Shield save data, you could get a Shaman event. And once you completed the Pokedex, by the way, you didn't need to have the Darkrai or Shaman for this. Once you completed the standard Pokedex of Legends Arceus, you got a chance to catch Arceus itself. It was the first time that Arceus was actually available in a game, because in the original Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, Arceus was unlocked using the Azure Flute, and we didn't have access to the Azure Flute because it was an event item that was never distributed outside of Japan. So you couldn't get an Arceus. Now, all you had to do was complete the Pokedex and you got an Arceus. In total, Game Freak gave us 7 mythical Pokemon for that 25th anniversary. It was a slightly smaller distribution than the 20th anniversary, 7 mythicals instead of 11. However, the mythicals were now part of the game. Legends Arceus changed the way that they distributed mythicals, and this is going to be important when we're looking at the 30th anniversary, because they have the potential to go even bigger, even better, and even more mythicals going into 2026. So the 25th wasn't exactly the same as the 20th. It wasn't just download or serial code. It rewarded you for playing the games. Just for playing the other games, you got mythical Pokemon. It was like a reward for being a Pokemon fan. And we're looking at that precedent going into the 30th anniversary. By the way, if you're enjoying this trip down Pokemon memory lane, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We're about to connect all the dots and really build into the big picture here, and I'm sure you really don't want to miss it. So we have 2 major distributions to go off of. We have the 20th anniversary and the 25th anniversary. They were slightly different in terms of how Game Freak and Pokemon did it, but the spirit was the same. There were 2 things that they were focusing on. Number 1 was nostalgia. The mythicals that we know the best. The mythicals that resonate the most with the fan base. Those were the ones given out. Those were the ones that we finally had access to. The ones that made sense for the games themselves, but also for the audience. And the second thing is, they focused on their fans' pain points. They took the things that the fans wanted the most, but had the least access to, and gave us access to it. They took the Pokemon that were the absolutely least attainable, and said, here you go. For playing the game, here is your reward. Pokemon that you have wanted for so long, but could never get. And I don't see any evidence that they're going to be changing that going into the 30th anniversary. And now that we have this blueprint, we can build our predictions for 2026. First of all, we've got 2 games that we know are going to be available in 2026 that are going to be key focuses of this. Number 1 is Legends ZA. Legends ZA is releasing in October, but it's not going to be out of commission by the time 2026 rolls around. So for them to give us mythicals in Legends ZA is not out of the realm of possibility at all. Second, we got Pokemon Champions, and that's a little bit different. I don't see them releasing mythicals through there unless you can somehow transfer those Pokemon to home again, but there's something else. A lot of people have been speculating, and I'm one of them. Generation 10 is going to release in late 2026. What would be more perfect for Pokemon than releasing their new generation's mainline game at the end of the year of their 30th anniversary? And what would be more perfect than adding in mythical Pokemon to that, to give Pokemon fans that have been waiting 30 years a chance to get some of the most amazing, most hyped Pokemon in the entire franchise. So now that we know what games are likely to be tied into this distribution, at least for the mainline games, let's get into the Pokemon that are likely to come in order of their probability. And the first ones are the Kalos mythical Pokemon. If you've seen my video on which mythical Pokemon are available on the Nintendo Switch right now, you will notice that Diancie, Hoopa, and Volcanion aren't among them. If you don't have them from those earlier distributions, there's no way for you to get them right now. And with Legends ZA being set in Lomeo City, being a Kalos continuation, the Pokemon Z we never got, it wouldn't make any sense for them not to include the mythical Pokemon from Kalos in there to give the players a chance to finally catch them. It would be a perfect cherry on top of this exploration into Kalos, because Legends ZA is touted to be this exploration into Carlos's lore, so giving us the mythicals seems to be the perfect way to cap off this game that they are planning. Next we have the anniversary staple Pokemon, the Pokemon that are likely to be there because they have the most nostalgia for fans. We're looking at things like Mew, things like Celebi, things like Jirachi, and of course, Arceus. Yes, we got Arceus in Pokemon Legends Arceus, but hey, who doesn't want a free Arceus? Who doesn't want a free Mew? And Celebi? Well, that's not available on the Nintendo Switch right now either. So, giving it to us for the 30th anniversary, well, it seems like a perfect way to do it, doesn't it? But now we're looking at the wildcards, the things that they could give us, which don't currently line up with the games that they have planned, but would make perfect sense for Pokemon to give to us as a whole. Things like Pokemon that have not been released on the Nintendo Switch as mythical distributions. Things like Victini, things like Genesect. These are fan favorite Pokemon. Magearna, Zeraora, Zarude. None of them have been released as anything other than an event distribution. Giving them to us for the 30th anniversary would be a perfect capping off point for Generation 9 and into Generation 10. But they may go even further than that. If we write about Gen 10 releasing at the end of 2026, I would bet that we're actually going to get a new Gen 10 mythical Pokemon releasing alongside those games, or at least within a month of those games' release. It would be the perfect capper for the 30th anniversary. Release an exclusive, event-only 30th anniversary event mythical Pokemon. It's a classic Game Freak move. It would be the perfect way to end off that 30th anniversary, and it would be a Pokemon that we'd all want to have. But the question remains, even if we know which Pokemon are coming, how are we going to get them? And I think it's going to be a hybrid model. I don't think we're going to be forced to go into stores to get codes anymore, those days are over. What I do think is, we're going to get a mix between mystery gift codes to get Pokemon, and something like what we've been seeing now with the Shiny Treasures of Ruin. An event where Pokemon fans have to come together, beat raids, boss battles, things like that, to unlock the distribution of these mythical Pokemon. I don't think that all the mythical Pokemon are going to be distributed like this, but it would be a perfect way to give us something bonus like a shiny mythical or a new mythical. Having the Pokemon community come together again to unlock this secret hidden reward or a bonus reward on top of the already given distributions would be a really nice way to bring us all together for the 30th anniversary. The truth is, Pokemon's evolved over the years. The distribution methods have become more streamlined. They've added Pokemon Home connectivity. They've even added rewards through Pokemon Home. They reward you just for playing the other games now. Just by having save data on your system, you get access to more Pokemon than you would have otherwise. I see no reason why they wouldn't lean into this and use it for the 30th anniversary. So when you look at the history, the picture becomes clear. Pokemon likes using these big anniversaries to reward the fans, to give them something for carrying on their legacy and for carrying on their loyalty to the franchise. The 20th anniversary was the distribution of the mythicals. 25th added the mythicals to the game. The 30th may be a hybrid of that, or maybe Pokemon will find a new way to surprise us. But overall, I think we're going to be getting a lot of mythical Pokemon coming out in 2026. But let me know down below what you think. What mythical Pokemon do you think they'll release in 2026? How do you think they'll distribute them? And what's your most anticipated mythical Pokemon distribution for 2026? And if you like this video, you want to check out this one where I detail every mythical Pokemon currently available on the Nintendo Switch today, non-event distribution that you can get only using a Nintendo Switch. Check it out, I promise you, you will not regret it.